Namaskar to all of you. On behalf of Vivekananda Study Circle JNU, we welcome our speaker, delegates, and dear friends to this webinar. In today's session, we have among us revered Swami Atmalokananda ji, who will enlighten on the topic jnane, seva. We'll start our program as usual with recital of Vedic chanting from Tattariya Upanishad, a part of Yajurveda. I request Dr. Prachi Singh to begin the program with the recital. Prachi, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanam Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May the teacher and student be protected. May we both be nourished. May we work together with great energy. May our intellect be sharpened so that our study be effective. Let there be no animosity amongst the teacher and the taught. Om, peace in me, peace in nature, peace in divine forces.
Thank you, Prachi. Now let me give you a brief introduction of VSC for those who are not familiar with us. The Vivekananda Study Circle of Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi was formed on 1st November 2014 to study the teachings of Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna and Sharada Devi with the aim of molding our lives based on Vedantic truth of oneness. VSC JNU is a non-political, non-religious, non-profit, independent organization run by faculty members, students and alumni of JNU. We usually meet every Saturday to study the scriptures and the works of Swami Vivekananda and practice chanting and meditation. We also hold public talks and retreat programs. I would like to invite Divya to introduce the speaker and moderate the session. But before that, few guidelines for the audience. Those who are on YouTube Live, they can write in the chat box. We'd request you to kindly switch off your microphone and camera during the session. And if you would like to include in the meeting list or would like to share your valuable suggestion or feedback, please send us email at vscjnu@gmail.com. Now, Divya, over to you.
Thank you, Tanushree. It's my honor to welcome Swami Atmalokananda ji to VSC JNU today to give his talk, Shiva jnane, jiva, seva. Swami Atmalokananda is a monk of the Ramakrishna order. He was born in West Bengal in 1962 and joined the order at Belur Mutt in 1987. He was at the Ramakrishna Mutt, Barasat, from January 1988 till March 1991, and then at Belur Mutt from 1991 to 2011. He received sannyas in 1997. From January 2012 till March 2016, he was posted at Advaita Ashrama. In September 2016, he was appointed as assistant to Srimat Swami Jyoti Rupananda ji, the then president of the Ramakrishna Society Vedanta Centre in Moscow, Russia. Since September 2018, Swami Atmalokananda is president of the center at Moscow. Swamiji's talk today is on Shiva jnane, jiva, seva. And I wanted to begin just quickly with a quote from the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna and a chapter on his visit to the Sinti Brahmo Samaj. And in it, Sri Ramakrishna says, sages like Janaka, Vyasa, and Vasishta lived in the world after attaining knowledge. They fenced with two swords, one of knowledge and the other of action. To which a disciple or devotee replies, how can we know that we have knowledge? And the master says, when one has knowledge, one does not see God anymore at a distance. One does not think of him anymore as he becomes this. Then he is seen in one's own heart. God dwells in every man. He who seeks God realizes him. And with that, Maharaj, I invite you to give your discourse. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Om Sthapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatar Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadigurum Padavadame Tvaya Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Om Namaste Jatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Swarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So, thanks to the organizers of the Vivekananda Study Circle JNU New Delhi for giving me an opportunity to discuss on the very important quote which was uttered by Sri Ramakrishna, Shiva, jnane, jiva, seva. The working formula or sadhan for unfoldment of the spiritual dimension of human being in this modern age, in this age. So, is there any need to unfold our spiritual nature? Yes, of course. Because human being has three dimensions. At physical dimension, one, intellectual dimension, and spiritual dimension. So, there is no scope of unfoldment of this third dimension in any other creature. So, human life is very important. The only scope for unfoldment of the third dimension, that is spiritual dimension, is possible in this human life. That is why it is very important. Unless and until this dimension has been developed or unfolded, we cannot be called a human being. So, I shall narrate a story, very interesting story. You may like it. So, once in the night of a Shivaratri, there was a temple in the dense jungle. There is a Shiva temple, and the villagers used to offer their puja at the daytime because the forest was full of wild beasts. So they are afraid to stay beyond the daytime. So they finish as quickly as possible when the daybreak starts, and then whole day they will worship, and before evening they will come back home. And one day, one such occasion, a thief planned to steal all these offerings, especially the money and the jewels, if there is any. He wanted to steal it. So he kept himself hidden in a bush or in the top of the tree, and he was watching. All people went away before evening, before the dark, and he, with risk, he came down of the tree and entered the temple with difficulty, because it was dark night. So he slowly could find his way to the temple with difficulty and enter it. And he was searching hither and thither, and some fruits and flowers he is touching, but no money. So he is searching again on the holes, the window-like things were there, where the shelves are there, concrete made shelves. So there he was searching, nothing is there. At last he lifted his hand above, and a bowl or a pitcher-like thing he touched, and he thought the priest may have kept all the money there. So he climbed above the Shiva, on the Shiva, putting his feet on the Shiva's head, and immediately Shiva appeared before him, full of light inside. The thief asked Shiva that why you have appeared. I have come to steal, but why you have appeared here? Then Shiva was telling that on this holy occasion, on this auspicious day, everybody offers only flowers and willow leaves on my head, but nobody offered himself. You have offered yourself on my head. That is why I am very pleased. That is why I appeared before you and wanted to bless you. So from this story, we may conclude, we may derive the attitude of becoming God. God, Shiva, he didn't see the evil in a person, only good. From the angle of thief, he is not seeing. From the angle of God, he is seeing. When one becomes a God-like person, he cannot find faults with others. So Shiva was like that. He is blessing everybody. His grace is on everybody. So Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva, in order to serve human being, serve jiva as Shiva, we have to become like Shiva. So this is a story we have to keep in mind for our introspection. In November 2018, Ramakrishna Mission Headquarters, Belur was invited to send their delegate to participate in the 2 days conference, the 10th International Forum of NGOs organized by NGO UNESCO Liaison Committee in partnership with Russian Peace Foundation and Russian Academy of Sciences, which was held in Moscow near Kremlin. Accidentally, I was asked to participate in that conference in place of my friend Swami Sarvasthanandaji of London, and the request came from him first. He had some difficulty of coming here. His journey and ticket and visa, all these problems were there. Anyway, the topic for discussion in that forum was science as a common good of humankind. Unfortunately, hardly I continued for nearly 2 minutes. I was greeted with thanks by one of the organizers on the table, sending me a signal to put my speech immediately to an end without finishing it. I ended as gestured, but fortunately, I carried with me few copies of my deliberation, and with the due permission of the table, I distributed those copies among few on the table after the session is over, and humbly requested them to go through it conveniently. There, in that deliberation, I divided my topic into two parts: science, and the other part is the common good of humankind. Keeping in view of this second part of the topic, there are two ways to look at the world and to understand it: from the angle of a wave in an ocean, and from the angle of the whole ocean. Having logical minds, you may agree with me that the ocean as one whole, one single identity will have better understanding of its own nature as well as that of the tiny waves on it. On the contrary, being limited one particular wave will never have proper understanding of the whole ocean as well as all the waves. When that wave gives up its limited identity as a tiny wave and can think itself as the whole ocean, then it will have proper knowledge and understanding of the whole ocean. It has always been observed in the history of human civilization that those who could give up their limited individual identities and could evolve themselves into persons having universal mind and heart could do real good to humanity. It is said in the scripture, Mano eva manushyanam karanang vandha mokshayoho vandhaya vishaya sangam vishaya saktam muktam nirvishayam smritam. Mind verily is said to be twofold, pure and impure. The impure one is that which has thoughts of objects of desire, and the pure one is that which is free from desires. Like the physical world, there is also the phenomenon like gravitation. The mind also gravitates. The more a mind gravitates by the pull of me and mine due to sense gratifications and selfishness, more it loses its capacity to discover the truth of the subtler world, the third dimension, the spiritual dimension of a human being. When the mind is made free from its limiting adjuncts, namely lust, greed, anger, delusion, pride, and selfishness, it overcomes its limited identity and becomes universal. That universal mind can only be able to penetrate into the root of the problems of the humankind and their solutions from a broader perspective, and can do real good to humanity. They are alone to be trusted. They are alone is fit to live in this world, from whom no harm could cause to anybody, but only good. one of such universal person, one of such universal personality who was evolved in our modern times. He was Swami Vivekananda. In view of the topic assigned for me in that conference in Moscow, I continued like this. I am going to quote one of the most insightful statements of Swami Vivekananda, which I believe can revolutionize the effective ventures of the serious well-wishers of the humankind. Swamiji said, one atom in this universe cannot move without dragging the whole world along with it. One atom in this universe cannot move without dragging the whole world along with it. This sentence is very important if we want to do any good to humankind, because each particle is related to another particle in this universe. Everything is Atman, everything is Brahman. So you cannot move one atom without dragging the whole universe along with it. Maybe modern science also speaks in the same tune. I don't know what is the modern discoveries, maybe the string theory or anything else. Swamiji continued, there cannot be any progress without the whole world following in the wake, and the solution of any problem can never be attained on racial or national or narrow grounds. Every idea has to become broad till it covers the whole of this world. Every aspiration must go on increasing till it has engulfed the whole of humanity, nay, the whole of life within its scope. The universe of ours, that is both the internal and external, both the microcosm and macrocosm, are strung into one homogeneous whole. Swamiji continued, we get truth from both of these by means of experience. The truth gathered from internal experience is psychology, metaphysics, and religion. From external experience, the physical sciences. Now, a perfect truth should be in harmony with experiences in both these worlds. The microcosm must bear the testimony to the macrocosm, and the macrocosm to the microcosm. Physical truth must have its counterpart in the internal world, and the internal world must have its verification outside. Unquote. Based on the existence of the two worlds, external and internal, the search after truth has always been found to be undertaken from the time immemorial in two levels in order to have control over nature, both internal and external. The history of human civilization is the victory of controlling these two natures. While speaking on the necessity of religion in July 6, 1896, Swami Vivekananda said, man is man so long as he is struggling to rise above nature. And this nature is both internal and external. Not only does it comprise the laws that govern the particles of matter outside us and in our bodies, but also the more subtle nature within, which is in fact the motive power governing the external. It is good and very grand to conquer external nature, but grander still to conquer our internal nature. It is grand and good to know the laws that govern the stars and planets. It is infinitely grander and better to know the laws that govern the passions, the feelings, the will of mankind. This conquering of the inner man, understanding the secrets of the subtle workings that are within the human mind, and working its wonderful secrets, belong entirely to religion. That is quoted by Swami Vivekananda. There are three instruments, again quote, there are three instruments of knowledge: instinct, reason, and inspiration. Instinct belongs to animals, reason to man, and inspiration to God men. Unquote. Quote, it is reason that develops into inspiration, and therefore inspiration does not contradict reason, but fulfills it. Things which reason cannot get at are brought to light by inspiration, and they do not contradict reason. A pure heart sees beyond the intellect. A pure heart sees beyond the intellect. It gets inspired. It knows things that reason can never know. The pure heart is the best mirror for the reflection of the truth. This point we have to concentrate on, because the well-wishers of humankind must know this particularly. A pure heart sees beyond the intellect. How they can understand the problem of human beings without transcending the material barrier, the material field, material world, material attractions. There are so many organizations, NGOs around the world, but I don't know how many are there in the committee, of how many of the members of those NGOs or the UN or the UNESCO or anything. Those are claiming that they want good to the world. I don't know whether they know it or not. A pure heart sees beyond the intellect. It gets inspired. It knows things that reason can never know. The pure heart is the best mirror for the reflection of truth. The great truths about atoms and the inner elements and the fine perceptions of men were discovered ages ago by men who never saw a telescope or a microscope or a laboratory. It is open to us to do the same today. It is the culture of the heart, really, and not that of the intellect, that will lessen the misery of the world. It is the culture of the heart, really, and not that of the intellect, that will lessen the misery of the world. Therefore, today's context demands more the culture of the heart than the brain. It is always the heart that speaks in the man of love. It discovers a greater instrument than intellect can give you, the instrument of inspiration. Just as the intellect is the instrument of knowledge, so is the heart the instrument of inspiration. I submitted that all jotted down. Swamiji's all quotes have been jotted down there, and I submitted my deliberation there in the forum. I don't know whether they were interested in that or not. Anyway, I did what is possible for me to do, what was possible for me to do. Today, I would like also to refer to an invaluable short speech delivered by Swami Nirpedanandaji Maharaj in 1926. He delivered it in 1926 the founder of the Ramakrishna Mission Calcutta Students' Home, presently located at Belguria, Kolkata, in order to focus our minds to today's topic, Shiva, jnane, jiva, seva. This topic I liked most, and I circulated it to many friends and persons because it is very interesting and very important. Swami Atmalokananda told, "Let me begin by drawing your attention to an interesting phenomenon of the history of human civilization. Out of the human race have evolved two different types of supermen, the monster man and the god man. The monster man says, the world is for me. The god man says, I am for the world. The one says, the weak must be sacrificed for the strong, while the other says, the strong must be sacrificed for the weak. The monster man says, might is right. The god man says, righteousness is might." Indeed, these two types of supermen have furnished humanity with two different paths. When the ideal of God-man captures the imagination of the human race or a section thereof, civilization advances, wholly or partially, in the path of love and sacrifice. And there is peace, individual as well as collective. When the other ideal holds its sway, the path of civilization is marked by fight, and there is unrest, individual as well as the collective. The modern world has almost thrown overboard the ideal of the God man. The monster man is its avowed ideal. Buddha, Christ, Shankara, Muhammad have all been thrown to the background. They are being preserved like so many interesting specimens of fossils for antiquarian research. Their commandments have all been swept aside as they have been found to be incompatible with the tests and requirements of modern society. Modern culture aims at developing intellect, but it has no eye upon chastening the heart, which is left under the sway of brute instincts. Selfishness, jealousy, anger, hatred, and lust for power and possession rule the modern man. Intellect has advanced. Science, art, industries, and commerce have made a headway, but they are manipulated for aggrandizing the strong and exploiting the weak, simply because man, in spite of his boasted culture, has remained a weakling helplessly swayed by the brute impulses of greed and ferocity. A gigantic brain worked by a brute mind makes a monster. And modern society is seized with the ambition of producing monsters. But alas, monsters cannot bring peace either to themselves or to the world. The watchword of modern civilization is survival of the fittest. This law is the law taken from brute life. Man is about to forget the fact that he differs widely from the brutes. The brutes cannot sow, nor can they weave. The brutes cannot increase their efficiency, nor can they reduce their wants. So they struggle for their existence, and they feel no moral scruple in suppressing the weak. They have no demand for spiritual growth, and so they require no lesson on self-sacrifice. It is the prerogative of man to evolve spiritually towards the ideal of God-man, by obeying the law of love and sacrifice. It is the prerogative of man to test the transcendental bliss of spiritual growth that love and sacrifice do always bring in their train. It is the prerogative of man to ask for the pardon of those who have fixed him on the cross. The brutes cannot do this. They do not produce a Buddha or a Christ. So, for man, the law of real evolution is the law of renunciation and service. But alas, modern society has pinned its faith on the brute. It is bent upon preserving the brute instincts. It is bent upon preserving the brute instincts and brute laws on the human plane. This is why there is so much fraud and strife, unrest and agony all over the world. You see, it is told in 1926. Now, what is the remedy? Nirvidanandaji Maharaj told. Now, what is the remedy? What will solve the fundamental problem of the world's sufferings? What will wash up the bad blood that has been created between labor and capital, the ruler and the ruled, the colored races and the white, between different sects, different communities and different nations? The solution is simple. Humanity has to shift its angle of vision from the ideal of monster man to that of the God man. Man has to replace the brute doctrine of the survival of the fittest by the divine law of love and sacrifice, renunciation and service. Humanity, for its peace, nay, for its very existence, has to accept the motto of serving the weak, the downtrodden, as God, as divinity. This is not only the responsibility of a handful of monks, but a working formula for the whole world to readjust its affairs. A watchword for the right type of human civilization. This is the solution. On the logical grounds cited above, this is the there Nirvadanoji, I took from his speech this portion. This is the solution. On the logical ground cited above, we now discuss on our today's topic, Shiva, jnane, jiva, seva. I would like to repeat Swamiji's words again, which you also quoted in your this poster of the study circle. Swamiji said, after so much austerity, I have understood this as the real truth. God is present in very jiva living beings. There is no other God besides that. Who serves jiva serves God indeed. The motto of Ramakrishna Mission, Atmana Mokshartham Jagadhitaya Cha, is based on today's topic Shiva, jnane, jiva, seva, which was also revealed knowledge like a Veda, issued from the mouth of Sri Ramakrishna in 1884 at Dakshineshwar, swallowed by young Narendranath like an oyster that sinks into the bottom of the sea after receiving a droplet of water in the Swati starlit night to form a valuable pearl of wisdom, of Renaissance. Narendranath only could understood the purport of this seed-like utterance from the lips of Sri Ramakrishna, which he understood as the highly potential capable of ushering in the Satya Yuga, the age of maximum number of people living Vedanta in every walk of life, designated as Brahmin. Brahminhood is the ideal of humanity, human culminature. Because who is a Brahmin? Brahma janati iti Brahmana. Realizing the true nature of oneself. Whoever can realize it is a Brahmin. From that standpoint, we have to evolve into the level of Brahmin. So, we have to evolve in that stage, erasing all our apparent differences and distinctions of castes, colors, races, etc. from mental horizon of the people. Our ancient practice by the princes, kings, was such that they used to feel proud when they found their family lineages were directly connected to any of the enlightened loincloth ancient Brahmins or Rishis. Gotra Pravartaka Rishis, that is Sandila Gotra, Bharadwaja Gotra, all from those lineages. Referring to that, Swamiji said, quote, our ideal of high birth, therefore, is different from that of other nations. Our ideal is Brahmin of spiritual culture and renunciation. By the Brahmin ideal, what do I mean? I mean the ideal Brahminness in which worldliness is altogether absent. And true wisdom is abundantly present. They are good and noble, and they are the men of God. These are our ideal Brahmins. And we read that in the Shuddha Yuga, there was only one caste, and that was Brahmin. We read in the Mahabharata that the whole world was in the beginning peopled with Brahmins, and that as they began to degenerate, they became divided into different castes, and that when the cycle turns round, they will all go back to that Brahminical origin, that is one caste. This cycle is turning around now, and I draw your attention to this fact. It is unquote. Swamiji told this. You see, in foreign countries, in Moscow, suppose, they have all this one question. You have caste system. You have caste system, low, high, middle, and all these things. But they don't know the purpose of this caste system. It is the division of labor. Chaturvarnyam maya srishtam gunakarma vibhagayo. You cannot abolish the intellectuals, the all these professor, teachers, research scholars. You cannot erase these levels of persons who impart knowledge, and you cannot abolish the administrative class or army. Those are kshatriyas. You cannot abolish the class of businessmen. Anywhere, from anywhere in the world, all these four castes are existing, were existed, and will be existing in the mind of the people. Because without the division of labor, the world cannot run. But in our minds, we should see with sameness. Because a Brahmin, a man of wisdom, will see the same reality in everybody. From that angle, before him, from his angle of vision, though there will be division of labors, though there will be caste system, but the person of wisdom will not discriminate, will not underestimate anybody. As we can see the simile in the Vedas, Brahmanaswa mukamasit bahu rajanya kritaha urutadasya jadvaishya padbhyam sudra jayata. From that huge Purusha, Virat Purusha, Brahmins are produced. Brahmanasya mukamasit. Mukam. From the mouth of that Virat Purusha, evolved the people of persons of wisdom. Bahu Rajanna Krita. From that Purusha, from his hands came out the Kshatriyas to protect the society. Uru Tadasya Jadvaishya. From the thighs came out the businessmen. Without that, the world cannot survive. And Padbhyam Sudra Jayata. And from the feet came out the Sudras, the labor class. In order to survive, we need all these organs. All organs are equally important. We must respect all organs equally. Without leg, you cannot survive. Without brain, you cannot survive. It will be difficult. Many persons, they have amputated legs or lost their legs, but there are difficulties. They manage it somehow. But a full human being, a complete society, to form a complete society, you need those classes for effective governance. So, about the caste system, one must understand this. It is natural. That is why God said in the Gita, it is created by me. Guna karma vibhagayoho. Guna means Sattva-rajastama guna. The men of wisdom have more percentage of Sattva guna. Men of administrative class, they have more percentage of Rajaguna. Or men of the business class, they have combination, the less Sattva guna, but they are mixed. All these three gunas are in proportions, and lesser Sattva guna is there. And in the Sudras, the percentage of Tamagunas are more. This differentiation will exist forever, but only for a realized person. By struggling to conquer the internal and external nature, especially the internal nature, one can conquer those rajas and tamas, and to enrich himself in the sattva guna. You see, I am explaining the idea behind Durga Puja. You see, Durga Puja, you see, in Bengal, they have in the frame, you will see Ganesha, above that Lakshmi, and in the center Ma Durga, and on the left side Saraswati, and below Kartika. Saraswati stands for Brahminhood. Kartika stands for Kshatriya. Lakshmi stands for Vaishya. Ganesha, Ganapati, Gananampati, Mas, Shudra. 4 castes are there. And you see, Ma Durga is there standing in the middle. 1 feet is on the back of lion. That is the symbol of Rajaguna. And 1 feet is on the shoulder of Ashura, the embodiment of Tamaguna, Asura. And you see, when a person full of Tamaguna, he is fighting against Sattuguna to defeat Sattuguna. That is Ma Durga. And Ma Durga is taking the help of Shimha. Vishnu took the form of the lion as the carrier, Bahana of Ma Durga. And with the help of Rajaguna, Mother Sattva is attacking the Tamaguna, that is the Asura, and trying to defeat the Tamaguna. And Asura, the embodiment of Tamaguna, he already fought against lion, Rajaguna, and rose above the level of Rajaguna, that is Simha, and got in touch of the feet of Mother, Divine Mother, and became divine, and is being worshipped through eternity. So this symbol of social balance. The Sattaguna must be under control. Sattaguna must have control over Rajaguna and Tamaguna. They balance. Sattaguna is nothing but the balance of the 2 forces, Rajaguna and Tamaguna. And it must be under control of the Sattaguna. That is Mother Durga. Then a society with 4 castes, 4 divisions of labor can run very smoothly if one of these 3 gunas, except the Sattva guna, if Rajaguna will become powerful, then there will be imbalance. If Tamaguna is more, then there will be more chaos. So this is the symbol. This is the teachings we may derive from the image of Mother Durga. So in our personalities also, the fight is going on, and these three gunas are working inside, and all the time, sometimes the Sattva is defeated, Rajaguna is defeated, sometimes Sattva is defeating Tamaguna or Rajaguna. So, in short, I have told. Now, I have to make it short. Now, we can proceed further. That according to our scriptures, we got the definition of a Brahmin. Brahma janati ti Brahmana. Whoever knows Brahman is a Brahmin. And you may see in the Gita introductory bhashya, there Shankaracharya told, Brahmanatvasa hi akshaneina rakshita syat vaidiko dharma. If you want to protect the Vaidika dharma, Vedic dharma, so God incarnates himself to set the Brahmins on the right path, because all the other castes, all the other sections of the society follow the Brahmin, the life of the Brahmin, the ideal set forth by a Brahmin, because he is considered to be the teacher, Brahmin qualities. So, all our scriptures, all our religious practices have one motto: to produce persons of divine characters, to produce persons with Brahmin qualities. So, in the Sattva Yuga, all will have this Brahmin qualities. So, you see, Brahmin qualities means Sattva Guna in more percentage, will be in more percentage. You see, why Sri Ramakrishna is considered to be the person of Sattva Yuga. Swamiji told, Sri Ramakrishna, with the advent of Sri Ramakrishna, Sattva Yuga has been started. Why Swamiji told it? Because there is more percentage of Sattva Guna. Sri Ramakrishna expressed this statement, Sattva Guna Aishwarya is dominant in this incarnation. Sattva Guna is dominant. So that is the sign of the incarnation of Sattva Yuga. You may contemplate on this subject, and you will get many ideas contemplating on the words of Swamiji connecting with this statement. Now, Shiva jnane jiva seva. You see, Shiva Gyan, to understand and serve Jiva as Shiva, it is very difficult. If you impose Shiva, impose Godhood on a person, if you want to worship a person as Shiva, you need to become Shiva. Because this is the method of worship. This is the principle of puja. In puja, you can ask any efficient pujari or scholars in puja. They know it, that the principle, the main point of puja, main theory of puja, you will find in Chandogya Upanishad. Devahutva devang jajeta. If you want to worship a god, you want to become, you want to impose in yourself that god, and to become, imagine that you have become that god. If you want to do Saraswati Puja, you want to become, you think yourself, you need to think yourself as Saraswati. If you want to do Ganesha Puja, you need to think yourself as Ganesha. If you want to think, you want to worship Durga Puja, you need to think that you are Durga, Mother Durga. Devahutva devang jajeta. After becoming God, you need to worship God. Then you are eligible for worshipping God. So, for purification, and what is the method? We have to become God, and the process is to remove the qualities, remove the things which are non-God, which are not divine. That means the limitedness we have to remove. The jivatva we have to throw out. We have to renounce. You see, before starting the main worship, main part of the worship, that is, you start worship with the sandal paste. Ete gandha pushpe, Om Ganeshaya Namaha, Idam Sajandana Pushpam, Om Ganeshaya Namaha. So this way you start puja after lighting incense stick and this lamp. But before that, what you do? All shuddhis, bhuta shuddhi, anganyasa, karanyasa, antarmatrika nyasa, vayumatrika nyasa, sangharmatrika nyasa, brahmvarna nyasa, in Kali Puja Shorosha nyasa, Shoronyasa. So nyasa you have to do, so that again and again, what is the meaning of nyasa? Ni, upasarga, prefix, os, the dhatu, the root, and then the pratyay is ghai pratyay. Pratyay is ghai pratyay. So, ni os, what is the meaning of the os dhatu? Os root, shepane, one meaning is shepane, to throw out. Bhubi, bhubi means to become. And goti dipti adaneshu. Gati and dipti, shining, and adaneshu, to impose or take up. So you see, in Nyasa what we did? Nishchayana, ni means nishchayena. So nishchayena, we have to throw out our jivatva and to impose the devatva in us. That is the main secret of puja. Devahutva devang jajeta. So Shiva jnane jiva seva, first you have to throw out your jivatva. Otherwise, this is not a spiritual practice. It will no more can be called a spiritual practice if you don't try to become divine. It will be all like social service organization. It is not a spiritual organization. If you want to practice, you have to take up this Shiva jnane jiva seva as the spiritual practice. You need to become divine first. Be and make. And ultimately, if you think deeply, there will no making, but only becoming, only being. Because you cannot make. There is a trace of ego in making. And when there is an ego, you cannot be divine. In front of you, in the form of poor, destitute, and the people around who want help, we are the servant alone, like Hanuman. So, I am the servant, means I am the pujaka, I am the sadhaka, worshipping the God in the form of poor, needy, destitute, suffering people. All these are there. So I have to become divine first. Then I can understand their problem, in which way their difficulty I will feel from within. Swamiji, in his conversation and dialogue with Sarachandra Chakravarti, there is a chapter. You will see. When you see yourself in others, then you cannot restrain yourself, but you start serving. You cannot withdraw, because that is your own self. You are serving yourself. Shiva jnane jiva seva. Jiva, there is no jiva, but Shiva only. Shiva is serving Shiva. So, if you see difference, then that would remain a social service. The difference should be abolished between the served and the served, servant and the served. So, this is the thing, this is the criteria, this is the main point to understand Shiva jnane jiva seva. That is the formula of spiritual practice to include this Vedantic knowledge. What Swamiji told after listening this utterance from the mouth of Sri Ramakrishna, if God wills, I shall propagate this message all over the world, and I shall show how to implement the Upanishad, knowledge of the Upanishad, into our day-to-day spiritual, day-to-day practice, day-to-day life. So this is the formula, this is the secret. Devo bhutva devam jajeta. You have to become God. All have to become God. You have to include all our activities, even the mundane activities. In front of you, father, mother, children, all to Vishavashyamidam sarvam, yatkincha jagatyang jagata, ten tyaktena bhunjita, ma vidakasya siddhanam. Tyaktena bhunjita, how? By renunciation, you can maintain, you can serve others. Because renounce your jivatva, your limitedness, your ego. When ego is there, you cannot. Swamiji told in his inspired talks, as I go away, God comes in. So to become divine, You must remove your ego. Agentship, that is the only criteria, only the main thing to be removed. So we have to contemplate on this while practicing this Shiva jnane jiva seva and to become divine. Our identifications with our gross body is so strong. Our identification with our me and mine is so strong that it is very hard to overcome this limited identity. But by imposing one good imagination that I am the all-pervading Shiva, the embodiment of renunciation and mercy, we can remove my bad imagination that I am a body. So before doing good to others, before serving others, as the embodiments of Shiva, our first duty is to shake off our limited identities and to realize that we are omnipotent Shiva, omnipotent Shivas. Then it will be easier for us to impose Godhead on others. If we are not God, we don't become God, we cannot impose God in others. Shiva Gyan, how will do without becoming God? So first duty is to become God first and to serve others. We cannot understand. Then only Shiva Jnana Jiva Seva will not remain a subject for delivering lectures, but an effective path of spiritual practice for realizing one's true nature. Knowing one's true nature is nothing but Atma Moksha. At least after having intellectual conviction that Mamatma Sarva Bhutatma, the whole world will no more remain different from his own self, but his own projections. Then how could he stay himself away from doing good to others as himself? The idea of Porohito or a Jagodhito will vanish from the mental horizon of the sadhaka. It will be turned into Nijohito. Following this spiritual discipline described above, one can transform his all secular activities into spiritual activities. I shall end the discourse by repeating one verse from the Shiva Manasa Pujana Stotram, which is chanted every day by priests of all the major Shiva temples in India. Atma Tvam Girija Matih Sahacharaha Prana Shariram Griham Puja Te Vishayopuhoga Rachana Nidra Samadhisthiti Sanchara Padayo Pradakshina Vidhi Dotrani Sarva Giro Yad Yad Karma Karomi Tat Tadakhilam Shambho Tavaradhanam. O Shiva, thou art myself, Atman. My intelligence is Girija, one born of the Himalayas. Girija is in Parvati. That is a consort of Lord Shiva. My life, Prana Shariram Griham. Sahachara Prana. My life forces, sense organs are your attendants. Sahachara Prana. Shariram Griham. My body is your abode, temple of the Shiva. Puja Te Vishayobu Bhoga Rachana. Experiencing the objective world is your worship. Nidra Samadhi Sthiti. My deep sleep is a state of Samadhi. Sanchara Padayo Pradakshina Vidhi. Moving about with 2 feet is circumambulating you, O Lord. Stotrani Sarvagiro. All the words and speeches are hymns about you. Yad Yat Karma Karomi. Whatever actions I perform, O Lord Shambhu, Tat Tadakhilam Shambhu Tabaradhanam. It is all your worship alone. Om Tat Sat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you. I would like to invite everyone to type in their questions in the chat box. The first one for you, Maharaj, is from Tanushree. She says, Pranam Swamiji, in the beginning you mentioned following one's heart rather than the brain. Can you please elaborate on how one can practice that?
The another name of Brahman is Hridaya in Chandogya Upanishad. Because all intellect, mind, everything, actually the spiritual heart is, when you see your identity, suppose your identity, who am I? I said, I am. Who did this? You say, touching your heart only. You never touch your brain and say, I am, it is I, it is I. When you touch, it is automatically you touch your hearts and I have done it. I have done it. Because your identity is concentrated in the location of heart, the place of heart. So, all your intellect, mind, everything is dependent on the Atman that is located in the place of heart, which scriptures also give support. So that is why culture of the heart is most important than the brain. Because Sri Ramakrishna told, Shuddha Man, Shuddha Buddhi, Shuddha Atma Ek. Purifying your intellect, purifying your mind, and the pure Atman is identical. So, purifying your intellect you cannot understand unless and until you understand the Atman. What is Atman? You have to know from the scriptures and Acharya. Scriptures and the Acharya, we can know the nature of the Atman and to contemplate on it. And Buddhi is nothing but the limited manifestation of that Atman. Mind is nothing but the limited manifestation of that Atman. So, first to cultivate the heart, the location of the Atman. Then all will come together. Buddhi will come, all goodness will come. Swamiji told in one place. Everything will come because it is not different. Pure intellect, pure mind, and pure Atman is non-different. Okay.
Next question is from Sri Lanka. She says, it is very tough to accept everyone as Shiva, even when the person in question is of unethical nature. What would be your advice in this regard?
Yes, that is answered by Sri Ramakrishna in his Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Once Sri Ramakrishna asked Naren, if some bad person, some wicked persons comment behind you, what do you think about them? Naren told, I considered them as dogs barking. Sri Ramakrishna told, no. God has become all. You must not do thing like that. Tiger god is to be shunned. Thinking tiger god is Narayana, but tiger god is to be shunned away, because all this you need protection till you realize God. Tiger god is not to be underestimated or not to be disregarded in that way. You must know that in tiger also God is existing, but because of his crooked nature, he is manifesting like that, and you as a human being need to realize God first. You must keep yourself away from tiger god. As Sri Ramakrishna gave example also, a sibling plant to be given fence, to be fenced, so that the goats and cows will not destroy that. When the tree will be very big, strong, with a stem, then a sheep can be tied with it. So when you realize God, all fear will go, all fears will go. You will not be afraid to embrace tiger God also. So as long as you don't realize God, your spiritual sadhana is not ended. You must keep away from wicked persons, not underestimating them as other than God. Okay.
Prachi would like to ask her question directly. Yes, Prachi.
Thank you so much, Divya. Maharaji, I have a question. Now, if some person
Please.
realizes about what they have done, so can the broken boundaries of those ethics and values be repaired? Second, can the habits developed as a liberty from ethics and morals be brought back in a person? If at all, what are the tools for the same?
You see, the journey will start from yourself, and you cannot expect that you can change the whole world, but the percentage of good people can be increased. With this idea, if the percentage of good people like Swami Vivekananda, Sri Ramakrishna is there, then in spite of being surrounded by the wicked people and the opposite people of opposite nature, it is necessary also. The wicked people are necessary also. Sri Ramakrishna told that why one gentleman, one devotee asked Sri Ramakrishna, why first Sri Ramakrishna told that God has created good people and also wicked people. He has created wicked people. Then the devotee is asking, why God has created wicked people? Sri Ramakrishna is answering, in order to produce, in order to make good people. In contrast with darkness, light can be understood. In contrast with wicked people, good people are recognized. So, it is the divine dispensation that wicked people will be around us. You cannot change the whole world, but by changing the whole world, trying to change the world by your exemplary life, you can radiate goodness, and by that way, the eligible persons who can able to receive your signals, your good impulses, he can develop and culture these good impulses into his life and be enriched into a good personality. This much you can do. You can serve God in that way. If you want to serve wicked people, but you have to serve them from distance, with prayer, with intense prayer, as Sri Ramakrishna did, Holy Mother did, Swamiji did. You see? And it is the nature, it is evident from the lives of the incarnations that the wicked people, all the opposite nature people, cannot understand the incarnations, the good people. Their nature is to cause harm to the good people. And that is why you see Jesus was crucified. And other persons also, other incarnations also, they were tortured in many ways. Sri Ramakrishna was kicked by the priest. He was also a wrestler was engaged to finish Sri Ramakrishna with a stick, and he was saved because when he got down from the carriage, that person was ready to beat on his head with that long bamboo stick, and Sri Ramakrishna stared at him with compassion, full of compassion, and he made a mistake that he straightly looked at the eyes of Sri Ramakrishna, and his all anger has been vanished. And what happened? Nobody knows. He fell down at the feet of Sri Ramakrishna. So if you change the nature of others, you must be divine.
Yeah, thank you, Maharaji. I would like to put my question in a slightly different way. I am saying here, like, if I am that wicked person who had already broken the boundaries of ethics and values, but now I am on the path of realization, and of course,
Yes.
there are sets of habits that have been developed as a liberty from those ethics and morals. How can then they brought back? And what are the tools that should be used for a wicked person who is on the path of realization to be better and better in that ways?
You see, when the desire to become good has been arisen in your mental horizon, you are blessed. You will reach the goal. And I request you to read The Practice of Religion from the 4th volume of Complete Works. Perhaps in the old edition, 238 page, you read the whole chapter. That is given that lecture was delivered from America, Alameda in 1900. So please read that. Everybody should read that lecture.
So 4th volume, Maharaji, you said, right?
4th volume, yes.
Okay.
4th volume. And in a booklet form also, it is available from Advaita Ashrama.
With the name of religion, something on.
Practice of religion.
The practice of religion.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
Practice of religion.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Oh, I had a comment connecting this. I was thinking of the story of Valmiki, and it just struck me as a very it's always a helpful example to help me understand how Sri Ramakrishna and Swamiji dealt with this. I guess the old problem of evil. But as you said in your earlier on in your discourse, it's Christ having the compassion to ask for forgiveness for those who are crucifying him. And Valmiki was, he was a robber, and then Narada, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, intercepted him at one point, and he asked him, right, why do you do this? And he says, I was helping my family. And then he gives it up, and then he goes into the forest and he becomes a poet of the Ramayana.
What is your question then?
But my question actually, I was just reflecting, but I have a question, and my question is, it's going back to the what you were talking about with the caste system, and something that I was thinking of what Swamiji said at one point in some of the reminiscences of him. He says about Russia, and he's talking about Russia and China. He says, he explained that in the beginning, society was a theocracy under the rule of the Brahmin, or priestly caste. This was followed by the military caste, the Kshatriya. Now we are under the sway of the Vaishya, and the commercial interests ruled the world. Economic considerations are all important. This phase is nearing its end and would be followed by the ascendancy of the Shudra, the laborer. And I was trying to connect that to what you were saying about the emergence of the Satya Yuga, and that we were all going to go back to being Brahmins. And so I wondered how you connected those two, this ascendancy of the Shudra, which I think we are seeing still, and how the consciousness of the Shudra will be awakened towards Brahmanhood.
Because there will be no lack of Brahmin people in this world. Percentage may be less or more, but there will be no. That is why God incarnates himself, to show the example of a Brahmin. Different ages. With his radiance, people get inspired. And he actually put the wheel in motion, the force by which the wicked people, by his bad deeds, like Ratnakara, the repentance will come. When the repentance will come, the darkness will slowly turn into daylight. So there will come a point of time in every life, every human life, when he will shake off, he want to wash off his bad karmas and repent for this and never to do it again. That time you know for certain the good days will come, and the path for becoming a divine person and the scope for becoming a divine person is ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that brings us to the end of the question. Thank you, Maharaj. I would like to
Yes, thank you.
hand over the mic to Sri Lekha, who is going to give the vote of thanks.
And thank you to Reverend Swami Atmalokananda ji
Thank
for
you.
giving us such a
Yes.
delightful and insightful, and very intense talk on different aspects to come to the conclusion how to imbibe ourselves and mature ourselves to understand the concept. And I also want to thank all our team members being part of this. Alka, our Amrita, Arpita, Arun, Aninja Didi, Namrata for the constant inputs and suggestions. I extend my special thanks to Divya for conducting the talk, and Chagadadi for designing our posters, Prachi for chanting the Shanti Mantra, and Tanushree for hosting the meeting. Everybody's constant hard work has put this day to a success. Thank you all. And a special thanks to Sri Anirban Chakravarti, who has served as a foundation for this group for a long time. And he is actually the binding factor and the technical support, of course.
Thank,
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaji,
yes, yes.
again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. And I am enriched. I am enriched also. Thank you.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. May all be prosperous and happy. May all be free from illness. May all see what is spiritually uplifting. May no one suffer. Om. Peace, peace, peace.